I know a lot of actors have like to strategically put like a guitar behind them. So
It's okay.
I
I do the
wanted to,
same thing. I have posters in my BB-8 for that purpose, so then people think I'm more interesting.
yeah. No. I don't even know whose house I'm in. So it just this was the most like Zoom ready corner.
Yeah, did you just
So
walk through and like look in the windows and be like, okay, I found my corner.
I was
That
walking around
one.
my neighborhood and I was like, who has the most guitars on the wall? And then
I choose that one.
this house
Uh
worked out.
yeah, I do like that it is just the very bottom of all of the guitars and then the one in the corner. That's perfect.
These guitars don't have a top. They stop right at
They
the,
cut off right there.
yeah, they're not playable. They're just art.
Well, it is funny to me to do interviews about Zoom COVID movies in Zooms still. I think it's
Yes.
this has happened like three times where I'm like, this movie was very clearly filmed in the pandemic. This one is more like actually about the pandemic, so it's a bit different. But
Hmm.
it is kind of it feels very New York in not the best ways because so many people did flee, but it
Right.
works to kind of like have these people together. And so, what was it about Who Invited Charlie that made you want to be a part of it and tell this story that we're just now getting around to wanting to watch stuff like this?
Well, like as much as this movie takes place in the pandemic, it's not really about the pandemic, and that's something that I really liked. And I think that going forward, us as an audience have to get comfortable with the idea that like that happened, so it's going to create a lot of art, uh, and it's going to be used by artists as a jumping off point to try to describe the way society feels, or justify the way society feels. So I feel like it was I didn't even think about the pandemic side of it because the script itself was so good and it reminded me so much of movies that I loved when I was a kid, like What About Bob or Planes, Trains and Automobiles, and I just thought it was such a throwback, and I thought the part fit me really well, and I wanted to be involved.
Yeah, the way you said that, it is very much a John Candy-esque role, like the guy who shows up and everyone's like, why is he here? But then brings everyone together in his own kind of warped way of thinking. And I
Uh-huh.
do like that, like his relationship with this child is like built on the fact that he's like, oh, you're very stressed out. Like, I'm gonna get you high, but pretend I didn't see you get high. And then we're gonna be best friends because of this. And obviously, like you're working with a younger actor in those scenes, but how is it kind of building a relationship like that in a movie? Because I feel like
Oh,
it's different for that kind of situation.
I mean, that's part of the fun of movie making, is like you get thrown into these situations with people you've never met and people from all different walks of life and ages, and you kind of become familial in a way. And so, especially with Peter, like he was a young kid, it was his first movie. I met him before we started shooting. We hung out in New York City for a day and like walked around, and like he's so innocent and sweet and such a great kid. It was easy to kind of like figure out how you were going to um like fit this part in with these two people. So um I don't know. I don't know what the proper answer is about age and what it's like, but I know that I enjoy working with younger actors sometimes. I mean, it's challenging sometimes because they, naivete,
Naivete, yeah,
naivete can
yeah.
be frustrating, but I enjoy the energy that comes with someone. That's why I like working with first time directors and first time writers. And it's like they haven't been jaded yet. There's still hope that this could bring something great. And that's how I feel. And so I like working with people like that. And it kind of gives me a bit of like a boost.
Well, and also you have like I was a UCB kid before it went away in New York,
Mm.
but so like I know like you're kind of like a more absurdist approach to comedy versus like this more grounded one because on one hand, Charlie is absurd. He like broke into his friend's house, like, I want to come stay with you. But he is still kind
Well,
of just like this very real person that you're like, yeah, I know a guy like that. And so, how do
I
you
mean, I
get to
think that
find that balance?
well, I think it was to me, it did feel very real. I mean, like during the pandemic, how many stories did you hear during the pandemic about like, oh, I'm staying with, this person, or I
Me.
I went, yeah, you were Charlie. Look at that, Rachel.
I got stuck with my
Uh
mom, so I
yeah,
was
so you were your
Charlie.
mom's Charlie. I think, it Charlie represents a lot, and I think that you can see yourself in Charlie uh in a lot of different moments in your own life, and I really responded and understood that about the character when I read it. And I just tried to let it kind of every day, just trying to show up and kind of let it be what it was going to be.
Yeah, and I think also your energy in this movie with Reed Scott is funny because like fans of Reed Scott know that he is always kind of like the I'm not doing this, like I'm like
Yeah,
straight
straight
laced, but
man.
like also
Great
like
straight man.
I'm going to say the most outrageous thing in this scene. You're gonna be like, what did he just say? And Charlie is not that way. And so it works as a balance, but like as two actors who I'm assuming you guys are friends or at least like knew each other, how is it kind of bringing those two, not methods, but like styles of characters together in scenes like that? Because the comedy works, even though like on paper, you're like, how would these two be friends in general?
Well, I think Reed and I, uh luckily enough, this is our third project together, our second movie. So we've worked together a bunch, and we just kind of like have a respect for the way that the other works. Like there's a certain um laid back nature about letting the other kind of do their thing, and you joke around, and then when it's time to get serious, you get serious. And I think that it just comes with time and getting to know someone, and um that's why they say people have good chemistry. It's like some people you just click with, and Reed and I met about 10 years ago on our first film, and it was just easy.
When this is also a reunion too for you with your Mindy co-star.
Yeah, with Zosha. Yeah, I love working with Zosha. She's
Which
the
that
greatest.
relationship is very fun too, because they're just two people who are like, hey, neither of us normally live here, and now we're just on this fence talking to each other.
Well, that's the dream, right? When I mean, think that's the fantasy for every Charlie in the pandemic is that you're gonna be like walking around and see, some beautiful woman that is also in a similar situation. So I think there's a little wish fulfillment there.
Oh, for sure. And I do, but it is sweet to kind of see these because, like, which I think is a comedy nerd thing where when you're like, that person was in this with this, and you do like the 7 degrees almost
Uh-huh.
in connecting
Uh-huh.
everyone. Is that though something that do you just like working with people that you know and love and have that comfort with them? Because you said you liked newer people who haven't been jaded, but do you also just like to go back to your friends, like
Of
we
course, yeah.
can kind of shoot the shit?
Of course. I mean, I think it's important to have a group of friends that you've come up with that you trust and trust you to work on stuff. And I think also, like um your friends will show up for you because they like you, and I will for other people. And so that group, as you get older, becomes smaller and smaller, because those people, they 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 your circle gets small. So I find that in entertainment, in my job, I like to bring those people to work. And so it's usually see the same people in my stuff.
Well, I mean, it rules, but also like you've now sort of become more of not more of because you're still known as like a comedian and an actor, Adam Pally, but you're also now just Adam Pally out in the world because of 101 Places to Party Before You Die.
uh,
Um, is that a fun kind of reprise from living in like the actor world to just go hang out and just party in different cities?
yeah, I mean, I think, they're oddly similar in a lot of ways. Like that show is one of the joys of my life, and so fun, and getting to work with your best friend is a dream. But we're comedians and actors, so a lot of that stuff is crafted in a way to make it seem like it's just hanging out. But that work and that crafting is like my favorite thing to do. I'm like writing jokes and coming up with bits and stuff, and so and doing it on the road, and improvising like that. It's a little bit like creating a TV show on a high wire. So I really love it. And I don't see a lot of difference in it. It's just like playing a character. It's just like an exaggerated version of me. The same way Charlie is kind of an exaggerated version of me in a different direction.
That's awesome. You're now the second person to say like their persona on TV is like an exaggerated person of themselves. And the other one was Steve Gutenberg. And I feel like
Oh
that just
God,
like makes sense that it was like you and Steve
sure.
Gutenberg.
Jews, Jews, Jews. Some people would call me the Steve Gutenberg of my time. I think I would.
Yeah, for sure. The
Never
Steve Gutenbergs.
quite getting that big hit. Police Academy.
Almost
Three
the
Men and
police
a Baby.
fanatic.
Actually, no, Steve Gutenberg had a career, but there was a long period of people like, what happened to Steve Gutenberg?
He was on Party
And I
Down.
guess
That's
that's
when they
coming.
didn't know where he went. He was on Party
I guess
Down.
that's coming for me, and I should embrace it. And I respect Steve Gutenberg, and I do think he's a great actor. I guess I have hopes of like sustaining through, you know.
I think you will. I loved Who Invited Charlie. So thank you so much for
Oh,
talking with me today. I really
Rachel,
appreciate it.
thank you so much. Thank you for admitting to being a Charlie of your own.
Of course, I have to. Have a great one.